We, Linda Brown and Brenda Brown Patch, would like to welcome everyone and thank Jordan Coughlin, the town of Clayton historian and Thousand Island Museum caretakers Patty LaShawn and Sharon Borklin, for inviting the younger generation of students who received their elementary education at the upper school district number 15 on Grindstone Island during the 1970s, 1980s. Several are here today to share their memories of life on the island, attending the one-room school and how it differed from schools on the mainland. We are past students of the upper schoolhouse district number 15 and fourth generation islanders. Our parents, Ernest J. and Major Garnsey Brown, attended the island schools as did their parents. I get a little emotional, so you have to bear with me. We are both board members of the Grindstone Island Research and Heritage Center, who has a working partnership with the town of Clayton. Our headquarters are at district number 15, which is owned by the town. The Heritage Center purchased the district number 1 schoolhouse building and grounds. It is the home of the Grindstone Island Heritage Museum. Our first exhibit was titled The Story of Education on Grindstone Island, which is on display today. The Heritage Center's mission is to develop a resource library and preserve the legacy of the island. Linda will give a short overview of island history and how it was changed through the years.
The St. Lawrence River Valley is an ecological treasure trove of materials, fossils, and Indian artifacts. Carved out of the glaciers at the end of the last ice age, the vast remote wilderness was home only to wandering Indian tribes who roamed the area. The first permanent settler was Amariah Howe. He arrived on the North Shore with his family in 1802. Isaac Kendall brought his family to Grindstone in 1813. Isaac's daughter, Elmira, was the first teacher. Elmira homeschooled children in basic reading, writing, and arithmetic on slate tablets she provided. She gave up teaching to marry William Howe, son of Amariah, the first settler. The island population grew, creating the need for a school. District number 1, which was built in or around 1840 and located where John Black's Road connected to the baseline road. The building was destroyed by fire in 1879, then rebuilt in 1880 farther down the baseline as its present location where the schoolhouse road intersects. Shortly after, in 1843, District number 15 school was built where the baseline and Cross Island roads intersect. The two houses of learning were from that point on known as the upper and lower schools. In the early 1880s, when the quarries began operation, a new larger building replaced the original upper schoolhouse to accommodate the growing population. The old building was moved across the road near the Sewyer homestead and used as a church and meeting hall. It also became a house of good temperance by the good ladies of the island. Shortly after, it mysteriously burned to the ground, never to be rebuilt. Only the foundation was visible, but even that disappeared in time.
During the 1800s, the government didn't control the school systems as they do now. Therefore, the Grindstone families had to finance the school and provide teachers. Each family had to contribute if their child attended. Those who didn't have the means traded goods and services. Teachers who came from the mainland were responsible for their transportation, room, board, and any other personal necessities they would need. Teachers walked to school, as did the children, sometimes commuting 1 or 2 miles each way, summer and winter. Horace Mann, who was an education reformer who implemented universal public education and teaching training in normal schools. These schools were free of charge, funded by the state, and teachers' training was provided. Children were now required to attend school. The cost was covered by a slight increase in property taxes. Island schools taught through the 8th grade. The island school taught through the 8th grade. If families wanted further education for their children, they had to bear the expense of transporting them to Clayton and pay room and board during the winter months.
In 1880, the quarries were in peak production, employing approximately 250 men. The island also sustained 33 farms. There was talk of dividing the number 15 school into 2 districts, the second to be built in Thurso for the quarrymen's children. Although news articles report over 100 school-aged children on the island, the proposal was voted down. Records show that Miss Emma Kelly, Miss Nettie Rattray, and Miss Lottie McDonald were some of the teachers responsible for educating the pupils. In 1900, the upper school had 62 students. In 1902, the upper school had 29 students, and in 1904, the lower school had 28. In 1909, the lower school had 23 students. In 1914, the upper school had 42. In 1938, the Jefferson County School District centralized the 23 school districts in Clayton. For the first time, island students had their high school education paid for by the county. Upgrades were made to the local schoolhouses, providing living quarters for teachers. During the mid to late 1930s, there were 65 families living on the island. In 1939, the upper school had 31 pupils. In 1947, the lower school had 10, and in 1949, the upper school had 13. In 1957, the lower school had 6 pupils, and in 1959, the upper school had 7. In 1960, the lower school closed, and the 2 remaining students, Alice Rusho Perones and Leon Rusher Jr., went to the upper school. The last teacher at the lower school was Fanny Hutchinson. In 1963, transportation was provided by contract with the Thousand Island School District to deliver island children to and from school. The first bus driver was David Garnsey Jr., a former student of the lower school. His vehicle of choice was a light green, 1950 style Dodge station wagon. In 1964, the upper school had 6 pupils. In 1971, the upper school had 16. And in 1983, the upper school had 10 elementary and 16 high school pupils. In 1989, the upper school closed for lack of students. Only 2 children, Jamie Brown, age 11, and Eric Cupernall, age 10, were the only school-age children left. The last teacher at the upper school was Elizabeth Beth Marshall. Families with school-age children living on Grindstone Island after 1989 transported their children to and from school in Clayton. During the winter months, they made arrangements to stay in town. They were compensated for their inconvenience.
I would like to read a teacher's recollection of her first teaching assignment after completing her teaching certificate in 1964. Her name was Miss Patricia Gillot, and she was my teacher. It was not what she expected. She wasn't prepared for the isolation, although the Islanders made her feel welcome. Teaching several grades in a one-room schoolhouse adds its challenges, but overall she cherished the experience. Patricia was the first teacher to take individual photos of her students for keepsakes because they were not included in the Clayton Central School yearbook. Miss Gillot spent a lot of her spare time wandering the dirt roads of Grindstone with her camera in hand. One of the most memorable photos in her collection was taken of the well pump at upper school. The well was dug by hand shortly after the school was built in 1843. It served as a freshwater source for many residents who didn't have wells of their own. Miss Grace Lamora's elementary class of 1971 was first to be photographed for the Thousand Island Central School yearbook. Prior to that, only high school students were included. Also, in 1971, transportation was provided by contract with the Thousand Island Central School to deliver island's children to and from school.
That was a mistake.
That was a mistake, and I forgot to take it out. Because of the date.
I love it.
Disregard that. Move on to that. Okay, and she already mentioned who the first school bus driver was. Okay. And I'm just gonna flip through this a little bit to the end here. And then conclusion is, on 2024, a timeline outlining the history of Grindstone Island was completed and is on permanent display at the Heritage Museum. The Grindstone Island United Methodist Church timeline will be available for view in June at the Heritage Center Museum. The story of education, which is on display right now, will be viewed at the Grindstone Island Research and Heritage Center at the upper school. And do you want to finish the conclusion?
Yes, I wanted to also let everyone know that the Thousand Island Museum has also added 2 island tours to their summer schedule for this coming year to the island.
And at this time, this concludes ours. I'm going to introduce my daughter Melissa Patch. She's going to lead fill in for Nancy Taylor Smith, who was one of the teachers on the island. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us today, so she's going to do that.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. This is from Mrs. Schmidt. Nancy taught from September 1980 through December of 1984. Teaching on Grindstone Island was a cherished time in my life where the students, families, and Grindstone Island community all welcomed me with their generous hearts. Throughout my 41 years of working with children, so many of my skills and love of teaching were learned in that one-room schoolhouse. My time began with 9 students at one time. We had 13. With 9 students at one time, and we had 13 students at one time, ranging from kindergarten to 6th grade. My students included Harry and Frank Slate, Jay Slate, Creed Hietakangas, Jamie Brown, David and Chris Matthews, Jim and Maggie Matthews, Bud and Melissa Patch, Rebecca and Mark Lasham, Chris, Charles, Char, Joanna, John, Jim, and Eric Cuppenall. We would begin our day with outdoor play until the school day started. Upon ringing the school bell to the children, to bring the children in, they would settle and begin our day's work. Since we had a multitude of grades, the preparation was critical. Thus, my organization and time management skills were developed. After doing our morning work, calendar, weather, basic writing skills, we always began the actual school day with going outside to get our exercise. We would have running, skipping, and relays on the dirt roads from the mailbox in front of the school to the mailboxes at the crossroads. After getting our heart rates going, we returned to the classroom where each student had a desk and were grouped by grades. I had a teaching station in the back of the main room where I would work individually with the grades scheduled at different times. If, for example, we were working on math, I may have the 2nd graders with me and the other students had assignments to complete independently or co-taught by a fellow classmate of the older grades. We would take advantage of every accessing of the outdoors. We traveled down the middle road to the caves to study the rocks and other natural components of our island to support our science curriculum. We celebrated with the kindergartners reading of their first book. We retook spelling tests to ensure everyone learned the correct way to spell a word. We had such camaraderie and love of learning that going to school was never a chore. Homework was done in school, as home time was just that. We didn't need to teach responsibility, as that was done so well in the needs and preparation required of home life living on the island. The Friday celebration came when Francis delivered our mail, and it included the big reel-to-reel movie, and we would have popcorn and finish our week. My time in the schoolhouse with the Islander children was such an incredible experience that I will forever be grateful. I am sorry I cannot be with you all today. I know you share the interest and love of all that our community brings. Thank you for this opportunity. Nancy Schmidt.
Would you like to introduce Stephen and invite next week?
Stephen Lasham. Next. Former student. Oh, and
We're all.
Bud, Pat.
We're gonna do this in age group, so I get to be the first one. My name's Steve Lasham. My parents were Stub and Patricia Lasham. I'm a fourth generation Grindstone Islander. My journey to the Grindstone Schoolhouse didn't start there. My journey started in Cape Vincent. My parents and myself and my brother were 4 of 4 year-round residents on Carlton Island. My parents ran the cattle portion of the farm on Grindstone. And that was kind of where my learning really started. At the age of 4, I was driving a Caterpillar tractor in the wintertime to deliver hay out to the cows. There was no schoolhouse on Carlton Island, and I was the only kid there of school age. I started kindergarten in Cape Vincent at the age of 6. We walked. That was the only way to get there, either by boat, and when the ice came, we walked. So we walked from the farm to Sunnybanks Restaurant, where we picked up the bus, and that was the start of my school. Kindergarten was kind of strange, because obviously I was older than all the other kids, because I was a year ahead of them in age group. When the school year finished, the farm was closing up. We moved from up there on Carlton down here to Clayton. And my parents and I lived just down the street in a house that's no longer there on Riverside Drive. And I went to Clayton School, but I wasn't actually in the schoolhouse. Across the street from the school, there's a house that's still there, kitty corner with the parking lot and the school, and that's where my first grade class was held. And we never really even entered the schoolhouse. That's where we stayed. So kind of a one-room schoolhouse just for my class, which was pretty good. At the end of that school year, we moved to Grindstone Island. And I started up on a whole new journey. Grindstone was strange in the manner of we actually had a school. But when you had 6 grades of school all in one little room that is pretty much about the size of this, what we have right here. And without the older kids, the younger kids didn't get a whole lot of time. You got a little bit of time with each of the age groups with the teachers, and the older kids were always there to make sure that you got the learning that you needed to do. So it was a group effort. Everybody helped everybody else. Now, it wasn't all love, and as one would expect, because with the different age groups and the different kids and the different families, we had a lot of kids. My class is actually up there. We were the first ones to get our pictures taken. We had a lot of families. Sometimes there was a little issues amongst the kids, but overall, you made sure that you did what needed to be done, and you worked as a group, because that's the way things got done. Now, the transition from Grindstone Island and a one-room schoolhouse and everybody helping everybody else and entering 7th grade in Sand Bay was probably, nowadays, would be like going from high school to college, because there was nobody else and you were all on your own. My class going up to 7th grade was Salt Garnsey and I. Now, the only reason I got lucky was because I went to kindergarten at Cape Vincent. I still remembered some of the people that I went to school with. And I went to first grade in Clayton, and I remembered some of the people there. So getting up into Sand Bay wasn't quite so bad, but the big for us was you gotta go to homeroom. And then when you leave homeroom, you're gonna go to a totally different part of the school to go to your first class, whatever it happened to be. And for us, that was a very strange thing to do. And it made it rough for about the first 2-3 weeks, trying to get used to be where you were. You had 3 minutes. Melissa and I were discussing that earlier. You had 3 minutes to go from classroom to classroom.
And stop at your locker.
And stop at your locker.
That we never had.
And the bathroom, and anything else that needed to get done. And then you still had to know where you were actually going, which, again, for the first 2-3 weeks was pretty rough. But Grindstone was the place where I learned that you had to be yourself and to rely on other people. And that kind of helped me through the rest of my life, because when you go out into the world, it's not just you. I mean, you're having your own journey, but there are other people that are along taking that journey with you. And you have to be part of a group. Okay?
Thank you.
You want it on?
You're
For
next.
me next.
Oldest to youngest.
All right.
Nice guy.
So in 1977, we were living on Calumet Island, and the school boat used to stop and pick me up every day, which was operated by Leon Rusho. And then I would be brought to Clayton for kindergarten, and my aunt would walk me to school. And then my mom would come over at noon and pick me up. In fall of 1978, we transitioned and went to Grindstone. And I continued on there until 1984, where I graduated from Grindstone School, and I was the only student in my grade all the way through. So when we did our 6th grade graduation, it was pretty quick. I remember it. And like Steve said, you know, as you go up through the grades, and the teacher is in the back doing their lessons, and a younger student raises their hand because they need help with their math problem or reading, it was our job as an older student, every year older you got, that we would tend to the younger children and help them with their assignments and things like that. So you had a lot of responsibilities on you as you went up in grades. We never had a snow day. Ever. Never. Marjorie Garnsey could drive that blue Suburban 5-6 feet of snow with a cigarette in her hand.
Yep.
Well,
And Pumpkin on her lap.
yes.
She had this dog, Pumpkin,
Yes.
that always rode on the school bus.
Yep. So, and then, you know, when I transitioned over to the big school in September of 1984, like Steve said, it was beyond shocking. Yes, I had went to kindergarten over here in town, but I didn't particularly remember any of my classmates. I didn't know too many students over here other than, you know, I started playing hockey when I was 3. I knew maybe a couple of people, but when I got to the 7th grade, it was quite the shell shock to go from from a family-style, one-room schoolhouse to where did all of these people come from? And I gotta correct myself on a funny story that I had told earlier. In fact, I remembered it, and I'm sure Mrs. Erlin will appreciate this. So when I came over on my very first day of school, now mind you, when you come out, you know, there's 20 buses lined up. Nobody ever told me what bus to get on. I thought all the buses came to Clayton. So I just walked out the front door and I got on the first bus that I saw. So we all leave and we go down, and at the Sand Bay Inn, the bus turned left. And I remember thinking, this is not the way to the boat. So I had to go up and tell the bus driver that I was supposed to be going to Clayton, downtown, to get on the boat to go home. And he says, well, honey, you're on the Cape Vincent bus. I'll take you down at the end. So they radioed ahead, told the bus driver, and Francis held the boat for me and waited. Then I went to school on the second day, and I was still a little confused on, you know, what buses went to Cape Vincent and what buses went to Clayton. So I started to get a little anxious towards the end of the school day, so I took a pencil and I wrote on my cousin Mike's locker, "Wait for me," so that I did not end up on the wrong bus again. Well, who do you think watched me do that? Maureen Littlefield.
Oh dear.
I heard my name all the way down the hallway. And of course, she was a tall lady, so she could see everything. And she sent me to the office, and there was Mrs. Erlin. And they, if I remember correctly, was it Bob Bolton who was the janitor?
Yes, that.
Okay.
He might have done that.
So we had to go, they sent me to go see Bob Bolton, and he gave me a couple of cans of D ink and a box of rags and said, you will stay after school and wash every single locker. And I remember crying, saying, trying to explain what had happened, and he was very nice about it, but Mrs. Littlefield was not gonna let it go. So I stayed after school, and it took me 3 days to wash every locker in the school, including the locker rooms, the gym rooms. I never got on the wrong bus again, and I never ever did that again. And then I was in, Kurt Brown was my science teacher. And again, this was in, like Steve said, the first couple of weeks of school was quite the transition. So I remember being in Mr. Brown's science class in the first week of school, and I had to go to the bathroom. So I silently got up and excused myself and went to the bathroom. I came back, let myself in, and he said, Miss Patch, I'd like to speak to you. I said, oh no. He says, what are you doing? I said, I just had to use the restroom. He says, well, you have to ask permission. Okay. He says, and I have to give you a pass, and you have to carry a wooden block. Okay. Didn't know that. So that was quite the learning curve. He was nice about it, but after that, because on Grindstone, when you had to use the bathroom, you just silently went, and you silently went back to your desk, and you didn't interrupt the class. But anyway, it was quite the interesting experience, and it took a little getting used to and whatnot. And the only time we students ever got out of school early was when the fog was bad. Francis would call the school, and they would release us students early to go down and get back to the island. As long as we could see the tower on Calumet Island, and we had a reference point, then we were good to go.
And I'm just gonna
Yep.
add, they weren't discreet about it either. Like, they wouldn't just walk around and get us out of the class. It came over the whole
The whole
PA.
school.
Would all the Grindstone Island kids please report to the office? And everybody's like, oh, you guys are going home. Oh, you guys get to go home early.
Yeah.
You know, it was never discreet. It was anything that had to do,
And then-
it came right over the PA system.
In the winter time, you know, when we would get an opportunity to go, you know, home on the weekends because we boarded over with a host family, on Monday mornings, we would come back with our parents in the airboat, on Monday mornings. And so on Monday mornings in the winter, we would all show up in the office, if you remember, and we had our helmets and our snow boots and our snow jackets because we could not fit them in our locker. So I remember all of us trucking into the office, and I remember Mrs. Erlin standing there, and they would line all of our stuff up, our helmets and all of our stuff in the office, and it was just it was a, you know, a unique experience.
Jump in.
But other than
So I started school in 1980. Nancy Schmidt was my kindergarten teacher, and I finished out with Beth. I went from 1980 to 1987, and again, to talk about the transition of the school, a lot of anxiety. Like, that was, and see, when we moved to the island, I was young, so I only knew of the school on the island, you know. So going to school at a one-room schoolhouse was normal to me, you know. It didn't seem different. Everybody asked me if it was weird going. No, it wasn't, even to this day, you know, going, it was kind of an honor, you know, to go to the same school as your parents and grandparents, and, you know, we're fifth generation Islanders. Yeah, I mean, it was different, but it was exciting at the same time. So I'm gonna cut mine a little short because she was so long-winded. In case anybody has any questions. So, where are we at now?
If they have questions for any part of it, you can come sit down and you don't have to stand up, I guess, is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody has any questions, direct it to a certain person.
Actually, I got a couple of little quick stories. My son Keith went to school over there in 5th and 6th grade, and he got to drive a car to school every day. Yep. And the car had no brakes. And in 6th grade, he would go to the town docks and pick Beth Marshall up in this car with no brakes and take her to school. And the other story was, none of the Cupernalls are here. The Cupernalls, their mother, Kathy, would drive the bus. She was a big girl, and she could drive, and if both kids are bad, Keith said her arm could go all the way to the back of the bus to grab somebody. Anytime she goes.
Well, what year did the school close?
89.
89. So Keith would have gone, I think, in the last couple of years before it closed. Yeah.
Yeah, I was still there
Okay.
when Keith
Keith
went.
was going.
Yeah.
Spring and
Yeah.
fall. Spring and fall.
Yeah, so it would have been, because I think 87 was the last year I went. So he was probably there 85,
Oh, okay.
86.
Oh, that's right.
or-
Then he would have gone to this.
Well, yeah,
The high
he was, a year behind me,
Okay.
I think.
And then there used to be a white picket fence in front of there. And when the kids were riding with my son Keith in his van, they all blindfolded him as he's going by, and he run off and cleaned that whole fence out.
So if any of you ever wondered what happened.
What happened to the white fence? snakes in the well. You hear a lot of stories about the snakes in the well coming out of the sides of the well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Harry Slate used to pick them up and throw them at us.
I'm gonna rat on Linda Brown just to make her mad at me again today. She's always mad at me, so we'll start out early.
Why stop now?
Well, her father had like a 1954 Ford or something like that he was really proud of, and she drove it to school, and she had a cow and killed a cow with that
It was a
Ford.
49 for it.
No, it was 49 Ford, that's right. I knew I'd have something wrong.
Yeah, I came home from school and, there the cow hung in the tree with rings on it where they always butchered, so.
Nougat and me run right up on top of a cow one day, and she bellered like anything. We backed off her, and she got right up and run right off the field.
So it's funny when Uncle Don said something about Aunt Lynn driving one of Gramps' cars to work, because I had missed the bus when I think I was in 6th grade, and so I thought, well, I'll just drive my father's Bronco to school. So I did. And Beth was my teacher then, and she wouldn't let me drive it home. You know?
Did y'all get to do field trips
Oh,
off
yeah.
the island?
Yeah, we used to come over. We did. I remember
the
going to
Remington.
Upper Canada Village. I remember we went to Remington Art Museum.
Did we take a train one time somewhere?
Some of the trips we went, like the field trips, we didn't go with the bigger classes.
You went on your
Ours
own.
were scheduled just
For us.
because the field trips for Grindstone, though, every grade went.
Oh, right,
You know,
okay.
so over here, you know, you have, you know, the 4th grade field trip will go somewhere, but we all went together. So, we went, you know, sometimes it was just the Grindstone school went to, I think we did go to Upper Canada Village though with the Clayton school, I do remember that. But I think we did Old McDonald's Farm. There was a few things. I think we did a haunted house in Union Way. You know, there was. And then we did field trips on the island.
On the island. We used to go every year at the end of the year in June, and we would go to Potter's Beach, spent the whole day, and we would clean the beach up.
No, we did do that in the beginning of it. Oh yeah, Jim.
Yeah, we would clean the beach up every year and stay for the day and have a picnic and stuff like that.
So, Doreen, you probably know about this. I heard stories of it. When Mrs. Bacon and like that would come from Washington D.C. with her entourage, all her maids and butlers and stuff like that, she would bring all the kids on the island presents. Dresses for the girls and all kinds of things for the boys, and that was quite a thing. But you probably never heard of that or remember it, or Doreen?
No.
No. And then she used to take them all to the fair too, I heard. She'd get all the kids on the island and take them to the circus or fair, whatever, you know.
Francis used to take us over whenever there was a Navy ship parked in Clayton. I think it was on Sundays. We used to go over. He'd take us all over on the school boat, and he'd schedule a tour through the ship. And I think we used to get a coin or something, wasn't it? Or they used to give us something. And, but Francis used to do, you know, quite a few things.
He used to take us for ice cream.
But my big question with Francis is, how nutty did it drive you when he idled all the way across the river and you
Oh, I know.
That boat
Idle
couldn't do
all
anything
the
more
way.
than putt.
And
Not
I'll
with
tell
Francis
ya,
at the wheel.
when he drove the school bus occasionally, boy, you wanted to be,
Oh,
you
you
wanted to be
drive
right
slow?
there. Like, you wanted to be right there on the side of the road when he pulled up. Cause if he had to wait, you had to stand up. He'd make you stand up front. The whole way to school. Cause there was a few times that Francis would drive the school bus. I was trying to think back then who the substitute drivers and stuff were. Oh, Dennis, you drove the school boat, right?
I did one, yep, for 1 week when Francis was hunting and deer hunting in the southern tier. Yeah, he hired me to. That was an interesting experience. I hadn't had my license for very long, and there I was after dark at the week of Thanksgiving, and it's pretty dark out there. You got the lights were still on in the Calumet Tower. That's about all you have to go by out there.
Yeah.
And then it snowed, and there I was feeling my way along. Actually, I got help from Frankie Slate was on the boat, and he helped me get across there the first time. And then it had to come back with a deadhead back with a boat, and Francis rented an old kept it in a boathouse over on French Creek Bay there on Riverside Drive, and I had to put it away there, hook up a light bulb down in the engine room to keep it warm so that it didn't freeze, and yeah. So, and my father was a school bus inspector for New York State, and his favorite day of the year was when he had to go. Francis would come over and pick him up, bring him over to the island, and he would inspect whatever vehicle was being driven as a school bus there. And
Whatever vehicle.
Whatever vehicle it was.
he was known. My father was known for being pretty strict on he had all the school districts on the mainland. He was pretty strict with all the buses, but he was pretty happy when he went over there, and the steering and the brakes and everything was all working. And he always got Francis to, or I think maybe between the two of them, Francis didn't mind, but they'd go all over. He'd get a tour of the island, and yeah, that was a good day for him.
Another Francis story. I gotta wander down the road just a little ways. The house down the road that's right back next to the ledge there. I guess Francis used to date a girl who grew up there. And there's a ledge behind the house, and he used to keep a board out back in the woods to go from the ledge over to her bedroom window.
Oh my gosh.
So Kenny, when you made mention about someone that used to show up and give out gifts,
Yeah, Mrs. Bacon.
the only person I ever remember showing up to give out a gift was Sam Gardino,
Oh.
and he brought Charlie over, which was the paddle that spanked your ass
Oh, same gift you give us guys.
when you acted up, because back then they were still allowed to spank you.
Oh, yes, they were.
Yes. Yeah.
That was
I
the
knew
And it hung-
that paddle.
Yeah. So if somebody acted up, Mrs. Purcell or
And each day you got
Nick,
more whacks.
yeah. Yeah.
Linda, I think times really changed because I think the teacher took care of that herself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, we had a paddle.
My teacher was Mrs. Lamora, and she was in her 70s the whole time I was going to school there, and we could outrun her. So we didn't ever have to worry about that. And when they talked about the school bell, and she'd come out and ring the school bell out at the doorway, so we would all come in, we would just ignore the school bell and keep doing what we were doing. We were horrible to our teacher, but we did learn a lot from her because she was a very smart woman. But
So Doreen, you remember you're walking back and forth to school?
Oh, yeah.
Snowstorms, rainstorms, all that good stuff.
Well, if you didn't have snow days, if the teacher got sick, was there a sub or did you have a sick day? How was
Nope.
that?
Nope.
Had a coughing
We did
teacher
have
probably.
some.
You did, there was a sub?
Yes, when we were in school, I
Really?
started in '53, and I came to Clayton in '61. But Bertha McCrae, who was a teacher,
Okay.
she lived on the island, and she was our substitute.
Wow.
And they did have.
I used to mow her lawn, she had her hand would go like this constantly, and she'd be near me talking, I said, oh,
They did have substitute teachers later on, especially when Buddy and Melissa was in school. They would send someone that substituted over here. Actually, Beth Marshall substituted a lot before she became first the full-time teacher over there. So
And I think
Catherine Kellogg.
I think, when we did have a substitute, because the high school kids obviously left early, and I believe Frances would take the high schoolers over, pick up the substitute teacher and bring her right back.
Okay.
Because I think the school had to provide, them a way to get to the schoolhouse.
So what time did school start? Like, what was your 8 to 3,
Was it?
2?
No, I think,
It
Was
was the
it
same
8
as
to
Clayton.
2:30.
yeah, it was,
Was it
I think
9?
back then it was
It was
9.
Oh, was it
9 to 2:30.
Yeah. It sounds
And
about
I
right.
think the high schoolers left the island at 7 or something.
Pretty much the same
Yeah,
as it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the neatest ones going to school was Zeno Anderson used to make all the airboats like that, but he used to take Sylvia every once in a while to school in an airboat out through the fields and end up right up by the school. And now it's all wood, so you can't do it anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't really think about saying anything, but you know me, I can't keep my mouth shut.
shocker.
Linda and Brenda and Doreen and a bunch of other ladies decided they'd have a quilt show on Grindstone Island. And there was gonna be a lot of well-to-do people there, and it was a fundraiser. And they had the quilt show and the snacks and stuff like that. You should have gave them booze, but so they talked me into driving the Grindstone Island Farm bus, the short bus. So I said, well, what am I going to get out of that? And they said, well, tips. I said, okay. So we took I think it was Brenda took a jug and cut a hole in the top of it and hooked it to the dashboard of the bus with a coat hanger. And I figured, well, a lot of times I'll go into a bar, and if they have, I've done it here, they've got tip jugs, and I'll say, well, here's a starter, and you put something in it. So I put $1 in that tip jug. So we went over, and the ladies did the quilt show, and then on the way back, I had a bus full of old ladies. They were, I say old ladies, but, they're probably younger than me. So I says, well, there's some attractions here on Grindstone Island that you've probably heard of. I says, there's the silver mine and there's Potter's Beach. I says, which one would you rather go to see? And they said, well, we'd rather go to Potter's Beach. And I says, well, I says, nobody wears any clothes up there. I says, you all got to take your clothes off. You still who wants to go to Potter's Beach? All these old ladies, the silver mine. All these old ladies go, we want to go to Potter's Beach. And I'm like, oh my God, So I went up to Potter's Beach and let them out and walk around on the beach and stuff like that. They all got back in the van and came back, and I let them off at the tour boat. Guess how much was in that jug?
$1.
$1 damn dollar.
I thought you were gonna say somebody took it.
Not even a phone number?
Any other questions?
Patrick's probably got a few stories he could tell.
Well, I do remember when Francis had the school boat, he had a big platform on the back, cause he used to haul people and groceries and supplies back and forth. Well, guess who loaded and unloaded the boat? All of us, all the kids on the boat loaded and unloaded the boat.
Yes, we did.
Cheap labor.
I'd like to just add to Pat, in case, Pat's family was on Calumet Island, so when they moved here to Clayton, they also moved to Calumet during, when the school term was still in session. So the school boat from Grindstone Island stopped at Calumet and picked up him and his brother and sister, and they rode the school boat to the island, and then got dropped off. That's how we met.
I think nobody has anything else. Thank
We'll
you
go
guys.
for Edith Carter School over there.